Ooh, and welcome to the FPO Online podcast with me, man for the Midlands, Derek Beck. For those discovering this for the first time, FPO Online, FPO for short, is a player versus player / simulation based FPO Wrestling World promotion, with monthly shows being hosted on YouTube and Twitch. Appearing on the shows yourself is as easy as joining the FPO Discord server, where you can find even more information such as show dates, match schedules, the full roster list, areas where you can cut your own promotions, and so on. Links to the YouTube, Twitch and Discord pages are in the description below. Canada was the host of the two shows we will be covering this episode, with Fuego being held at Alberta. Once again, I suggest you watch both of them to get the full experience. At the start, we discovered that the Scarecrow was supposed to be the next member of the Scumbag Circus, according to Tejano X. This would set up a match for later. After that backstage confrontation was the first match of the night, an 8-man elimination match between Doc Clown, Dirty Dishes the Clown, Trent Hart Jr., Mateo Arroyo, The Juggernaut, Wolf Herman, Sancho Lanza and Pedro Jesus. The latter three would be having their professional debuts this match, although we had seen Sancho backstage at Vitality 2. They would also be the final three to face each other in the ring, with Pedro eventually pinning Wolf to win the match. Women's action up next, a hardcore elimination match against Betty Big Belly, Christy Adams and Shadow Dar. This was Betty's first proper match, having served as Trevista's manager up to that point. This was also Christie's professional debut, following Brian Kinghorn in making a step up from the developmental stage. Unlike Brian, however, she would not get a win on her debut, as she was the first one to be eliminated, with Betty pinning her with a power slam. Shadow Dar put an armbar on Betty shortly afterwards to win the match. After that match was a backstage interview with Parker Thomas introducing the newest member of the Park Pack to Skim Jim. Having failed to secure the services of Trent Hart Jr. at Vitality 2, Parker shocked the FPO universe with his newest member being Trent Hart Jr. This Trent is supposedly a different Trent to the one Parker lost to, but very few people have been willing to buy it. More multi-man action was to follow, with a 6-man landmine battle royale. Jason Judge, another developmental talent, made his debut in this match and did well to remain in the match as long as he did, but it was Doc Thomas who eventually picked up the victory. Harakiri, having reminded Tejano X that she was signed to be the face of the women's division, finally got a much-promised chance at regaining the women's title from Moeko Ichihashi in a fatal 4-way match. Jessica Stevenson was also in this match, having lost the belt to Moeko on a technicality. Saiko Piro was the 4th woman in this match, as she was the one who got pinned by Moeko after being hit with a running knee attack. Moeko might have gotten the belt under controversial circumstances, but she showed in this match that she has the skill to keep it. There was a debut for the Adams brothers in the only singles match of the evening. Adrian Adams, with Van Sannen as manager, would face Evander Sweets in a match that started with weapons littering the ring despite it not being a no DQ. Both wrestlers played janitor before getting right into the action, despite Van Sannen's protests. Van Sannen continued to be a nuisance outside the ring, helping Adrian to pick up the victory. The final match of the night had Tejano X and Bill Dobson of the Scumbag Circus facing Travista and the Scarecrow. Doc Clown joined his fellow scumbags at ringside, and they showed the stronger teamwork throughout the match, ultimately ganging up on the Scarecrow to cause his team to lose by countout. Both teams continued to fight outside of the ring as the show came to a close. Toronto would host the Golden Masquerade, FPO's most recent pay-per-view. Much like how the Texas Tag Grand Tournament crowned the first tag team champions, this show would host a tournament to crown the first ever Euro-American champion. The first four entrants would face each other for the first match. Those four were Mateo Arroyo, Doc Thomas, a debutant by the name of Sergey Moreau, and the demonic tormentor, better known as Stitch. Fans felt that Mateo, being a former FPO Grand Champion, had unnecessarily taken a step down to compete in this tournament, although this did make him the favourite for this match. Sergey was the first to go after eating a prayer bomb from Stitch, with Doc Thomas being pinned by Mateo shortly afterwards, despite hitting him with the Dark Descent. Mateo nearly booked his place in the final with a running enziguri to Stitch, but Stitch fought back with a fireball and a sit-out choke bomb to win the match. Of the final four entrants facing each other in the second match of the night, the Scarecrow was the only non-debutant, although the one going by the name Torrid was rumoured to be Zack Roper. The other two entrants hoping to reach the final were Esteban Del Toro and the Butterman. At the start of the match, the Butterman was immediately thrown out of the ring, and so tried to throw everyone else out of the arena. Things got back into a normal rhythm after that debacle, with the Scarecrow being the obvious favourite. Despite that, he was the first to go, with him, Esteban and Torrid all tapping out to the Butterman's submission moves. After that match was a number one contenders match for the FPO Grand Championship, with Lucas Levette and Randy Gordo facing each other. Lucas had lost the title to Randy at One Glorious Night, and got injured in the process, so was hoping for some vengeance and the chance to challenge for the title again. However, it seemed that he had not fully recovered from that injury, with Randy once again picking up the victory with a full Nelson camel clutch. Shadow Dar interviewed Pedro Jesus for the debut of the Shadow Chill Lounge, before facing Sakura Chiyoko, Shimina Villalobos, and Moeko Ichihashi for the Women's Championship. Moeko played mind games with Shimina throughout the match, by refusing to let her get any eliminations and ensuring that they would be the last two competitors, with Sakura being the first to go, followed by Shadow. Shimina fought valiantly, but suffered a concussion after one too many knee attacks, allowing Moeko to retain. Tag team action up next, with the Tab Cola Coalition defending their titles against the Addams Brothers. It was a long, grueling match, with Mick Mahoney occasionally struggling to maintain control. It was the Addams Brothers who prevailed though, with Van Sannen forcing Jody Winters to tap out to the Boston Crab. The two finalists for the Euro-American Championship tournament, Stitch and the Butterman, would face each other for the co-main event of the evening. Stitch was the clear favourite going in, being the more experienced wrestler and also having his manager Chris Tessie Teds at ringside. However, it was the Butterman who looked the strongest throughout, withstanding some vicious sickle attacks, countering a light tube attack, and winning the match by submission. After the match, Tejano X presented the Butterman with the belt, a trophy and a cash prize. After that, we saw a backstage encounter between Tejano X, Mick Mahoney and Trevista, which raised more questions than answers. That led into the main event of the night, with Trevista defending the FPO Grand Championship against Bill Dobson in a true out of 3 falls match, with Smooth Keith Miller rejoining JB and me in the commentary booth after getting stuck at the concession stand over multiple shows. Don't ask me how. Bill, unsurprisingly, was accompanied by Bannon X and Clown to the ring, and they did their damnedest to tip the odds heavily in his favour. Despite that, it was Trevista who picked up the first pinfall of the match, tangling Bill in a crucifix roll-up after hitting him with a springboard elbow smash. This seemed to cause Bill to get increasingly desperate, with his stablemates interfering more and more, to the point where it started to hinder more than help. That desperation paid off though, with Bill forcing Trevista to tap out for the final 2 pinfalls. Fan reaction to the pay-per-view was a mixed bag. The Tag Team and Grand Championship matches were singled out as the best matches of the night, and most agreed that the first 2 matches of the tournament were very entertaining. However, the bout between the 2 finalists was easily the weakest match of the night, with Stitch seemingly losing steam after a strong showing in his first match of the night. The night was also marred by Shamina's injury in the women's title match, along with Lucas Levette being rushed back too quickly after his own injury. Tejano X is said to be monitoring the situation very carefully, and is planning to bring in more medical staff, with referee Freddie Long also admitting to reporters that the increasing roster has meant that training injuries were becoming more common. And now for the news and rumours. The main news is that FPO finally makes it back to the USA for the next Fuego and the next pay-per-view, Retribution. Signings-wise, more trainees are being brought into the FPO dojo, with the most notable ones being Tommy Gunn and Tommy Hawk, who have competed with each other as a tag team in independent promotions under the name Team Tommy x2. As for what's being heard through the grapevine, Betty Big Belly is rumoured to be joining the Scumbag Circus, ending her brief alliance with Trevista. Elsewhere, Chris Tedsy Teds and Lucas Yvette are said to be becoming less involved with FPO, to focus on a new e-fed called Euro Women's Pro Wrestling, EWP for short, with Lucas rumoured to be planning a semi-retirement match due to his recent injuries. Speaking of EWP, Tejano X has supposedly invited a number of its competitors to FPO for a cross-promotion match on Fuego. JB and I have already commentated on EWP's most recent pay-per-view, Lethal Lottery, and I personally look forward to see if and how the 2 e-feds do business in the future. And that wraps it up for this episode of the Fire Pro Online podcast. If you have reached this point, I thank you for listening and I hope you've enjoyed it. You can find more info about FPO on their Discord servers and watch the shows via the YouTube and Twitch pages, links in the description. Until next time though, I'm Mouth of the Midlands, Derek Beck, and I'm out of here.